Hello, everybody. It's Stefan from the iMoot team. I'm very honored to introduce to you Eric Strom, who is going to present about rapid analytics and supporting courses and learning with the RASCAL framework. Eric is joining us from the Augsburg University in the United States, and I'm going to hand over to him now. Bye.
Thanks, Stefan. Welcome, those of you who are here. I appreciate you taking some time to learn about what we're doing here at Augsburg. So, of course, feel free to jump in at any point if you have questions. I'll try to address those questions or comments as we go forward. It's really our time to collaborate and connect. So feel free to, if we go off course from the presentation, that's fine with me. So I'm going to go ahead and turn off the webcam and get going on the presentation just to save some bandwidth, as Stefan might have suggested to do. So here we go. What I'm going to talk about is a framework that we have started to implement here at Augsburg College to help support our faculty and our course delivery process to really make sure that the students are getting the best experience we can make possible in our Moodle learning platform. So a little bit of background about what we've been up to. Let me get us going here. So hopefully the design of the presentation today will get you introduced to what we do with our data, and also identify some ways that we've tried to use that data to help bolster our support structure as our staff team to help with faculty course design and course development. And hopefully we'll have some discussion about what's a good way to go about ensuring success in our Moodle courses and yours too. So a little history about what Augsburg College is. We are a small liberal arts undergraduate and graduate college. We support about 3,500 to 4,000 students in that group, undergraduate and graduate programs, both traditional undergraduate on campus and commuter adult undergraduate and graduate programs. Over the last few years, we've really started to move forward strongly with hybrid course offerings and online programming. So that's continuing to grow as we move forward. And so our support team is really trying to struggle with, trying to move forward with providing support for those modalities as well. Augsburg has been a Moodle campus for 10 years now. So we've had a long history with Moodle. And that's been really good for us that we know the platform and have been living with it for a long time. And our faculty, have had some consistency with that, even though versions of Moodle can be, continuing to progress. They have some familiarity with it. Our e-learning support model is myself. So I'm an academic liaison for computing, which means that I support our faculty in various departments. For me, it's the natural sciences and the fine arts departments primarily. And we have a couple of other liaisons for our academic side of things, and they take care of the other departments. We also have an e-learning specialist who is really dedicated to Moodle support and an expert in online pedagogy. The academic liaisons are kind of the soup to nuts support, so we will be going on with helping fix printers and so forth too. And other questions that related to IT, but we also support our Moodle and administer our Moodle installations. That's a little background about us. So now moving ahead, the challenge here is trying to ensure that how we're implementing our LMS is a successful one. And the challenge is putting that connection between the LMS platform and what faculty know how to do with designing courses and delivering them. So the challenge is that, the LMS doesn't inherently know what faculty want, and faculty don't inherently know what the LMS can do. So we're trying to bridge that gap and make sure that they're coming together in a pretty effortless way, at least as effortless as we can make it. And there's, a lack of warnings that settings are not what the instructor wants. If it's broken, it's purely broken. But if it's just set wrong, there's no real way to tell that that's something we should be paying attention to. And when those things end up resulting in some frustration with faculty or students during the course, that affects the learning process and satisfaction for both groups. So we want to make sure that there's fewer missteps in using Moodle moving forward, and we only have so many hours in the day to help support that. So our process now is trying to get into what tools are really helpful for us as IT staff to support faculty and ensuring that we have a successful learning platform. Our relationships with faculty are really strong as LFCs. Our model has been working really well for us. We've had that LFC model for probably 8 or 9 years, about as long as we've had Moodle. And so we get to know what faculty are up to, what their issues are, because we hear from them directly. So that's a real advantage to us in terms of being able to craft what tools might be useful for supporting them. So we're probably trying to work on getting an alert system built together of those common issues that we run across. Some of the automation that I'm going to present about is helping us, try to make some of that alert system and support a little bit more scalable as we get into more and more use of hybrid and online courses. So what we use to make our RASCAL framework work is, again, that support team that we are in getting that feedback from faculty directly. And then we've been dabbling with getting a sense of what needs to happen from an SQL standpoint, and getting to know the Moodle table so we can start working and building those reports that we need. And so to do that, we use the configurable reports plugin and the MUAD Minor plugin that's directly within Moodle. And then our alert mechanism is something that I've been building in Google Spreadsheets and using Google Script. So I wanted to try the poll option here. Stefan, I don't know if you're on hand here to try that, but I'm going to give it a shot. And frankly, since I know I've got one person, maybe I'll just have you put it in the chat, but let's go ahead and try something. So maybe you can rank your familiarity with SQL. Dilshad, do you want to answer that to say, how familiar you are? 1 is not very familiar with SQL. 5 is pretty high familiarity with SQL. Okay, great, thank you. So I see that's not very familiar. So I'll try to introduce that to you, and if you want to go a little deeper, we can, but I'll try not to bombard you with too much detail on that. Let's see. And I'm going to try one more. I'm just playing with the poll item here too, so I appreciate you humoring me. So the next one is what would be 1 to 5 scale for Google Sheets. And with Google Sheets, using them, but then there's some formulas that go on there too. So you're familiar with Sheets, and if you're familiar with Excel too, the formulas, it's the same kind of concept of things that we use there. That's great. Okay, and the last poll for you is same thing, 1 to 5, but this is for Google Scripts. Oh, good. That's 1.5. I like how you did that with the poll. Okay. Okay, so good. Well, I may not spend too much time on Sheets unless you have questions, but I'll try to highlight a little bit of the other two as we go forward. Thank you for the feedback. So our rapid analytics support model is highlighted here in a diagram, and we start with the support feedback component and make sure that we kind of know what needs to be happening. And then that falls into building our Moodle reports. And what I do is right now actually just copying and pasting some of that data into a spreadsheet in Google so we can start using it that way. And then we build out the script to push those emails out to faculty when they need to be alerted to something. And over time, we're probably maybe starting to use some results tracking, which I'll highlight as well. So the configure reports block in Moodle is a plugin that gives you a chance to, it's an interface where you can build some SQL without really necessarily knowing a lot about SQL, which is really great. But there is also a place where you can import directly or type in directly a custom SQL query. So depending on your familiarity with SQL, you can use that and leverage that option, or you can work with the user interface to pull data from various tables. And one really great place to start, which is where I did, is kind of start tapping into the ad hoc contributed SQL reports that are available at the link that you find here on the slide in the Moodle community. And a lot of the reports that I'm going to talk about today are available at this ad hoc reports page. And so the idea behind the configure reports is that you can create these custom reports and make it available to other people if you wish, or you can have it available only to administrators, depending on what's appropriate for the kind of report that you're building. The other tool that I've used quite a bit is the MUAD Minor, which is a server plugin that gives you direct access to the Moodle tables, so you can poke around, see where things live, and get to learn a little bit more about behind the scenes where all that data might be living, which is really key in order to be able to create a good SQL query. And then you even have options in this tool to directly change values in the data table if you need to. I tend to avoid that whenever I can. But here's a good look at what that interface looks like. You can see the tables listed on the left, and I think there's over 200 tables in Moodle. I'm sure that's growing as we go along. And here you can take a look at that structure of where these different fields live in various tables in Moodle. Okay, so the core issue here is that these problems are encountered during the course of delivering a course. Students have an issue accessing something, or a teacher is having an issue with grading, whatever it might be. And then there has to be a reroute and get a support call and try to fix that problem. And so instead of trying to do that as a retroactive a response to what's going on, it'd be great if we could just avoid those problems to begin with before students get frustrated, before faculty get frustrated. And that's really the goal of this project. So identify those problem settings that might happen in the course and fix them. So this is pretty specific to, it's not really learning analytics where we're tracking what the students are up to and whether they're going to be successful or not. It's really more basic than that. It's really talking about what are some very concrete problems that tend to happen just because of a particular setting. And let's find those now and fix them before they become a problem and take time off of task for our students. So here's an example that I'm going to run you through that will hopefully walk you through the entire process of what we do with a report all the way to getting the alert out. So the problem one is our hidden courses. Oftentimes we have a hidden course because there's content getting worked on. We've migrated content from a previous offering of the same course, and the faculty need to kind of revamp it or make sure things are hidden that shouldn't be revealed to students right away at the beginning of the term. So there's many reasons to have a course hidden, but human nature is faculty forget to make the course visible again at a reasonable time. And so this is a very simple scenario where it's really just one value in the Moodle database that is either 0 or 1, and we should find out if that's happening or not. So here's the criteria that we look at for this particular scenario. Is the course hidden? And so that's a pretty simple, straightforward value. The other piece that I work out is whether students are actually enrolled in that course. If there aren't any students in there, we're really not concerned. And also, we tend to run this report at a particular period of time, really at the beginning of the term, a couple of weeks beforehand or a week before, depending on the institution. There might be a particular recommendation for that. And so we try to run it at this point, and this is where the value kicks in, that it's relevant for faculty at this point in time. So I'll just kind of review quickly what this looks like. This is not a complete SQL statement here, but it gives you an idea of how this is put together. So we have a select statement that's showing here. This tells us I want to look at some information that's sitting in a table. And so this visible item is saying, I want to show whether there's a 0 or a 1 for a course. And so that's pulling from this table here called prefix_course. And then we join some other tables together because we want to know, does this course also have students in it? And the data about where students are enrolled lives in a different table. So the SQL uses something called a join. It puts those tables together, and it tells me I can kind of filter it out, say only where courses are showing a visible value of 0, means that they're hidden. And if there are students here, so here's the other where clause. The role ID in a different table is 5, means they're a student role in that course. And so that's a basic summary of how the SQL is put together. I won't bore you with the other details. Here's the end result, is that we get a row of data of all those courses that fit that criteria. And so I've also pulled a few other bits of information about it. Here's the course ID. Here is the number of students enrolled. And then I can see one instructor associated with these courses. And here's that email of that instructor. And of course, I'm going to want this value, and I'm also going to want the course ID value for sure in order to send my alert. So we have that report going for us. So again, now the next point is trying to pull this in and make use of this data and act on it. It doesn't do us any good if we get the report and don't communicate it to anyone. So this is the design we want to make happen. What really got me excited about this idea for a project is one of these, a Google script. And Google script is something that you can customize to do and manipulate within the Google platform. It's pretty robust, and there's a large community that's designing these options to extend the functionality of Google products. So right now, this lives in a Google Sheet. And so this custom script that we use is one here. You can build a custom menu, and it uses a specific class function called mail app that Google supports. And the simplicity is that you just designate a recipient, what the subject is for the email, and what that message is going to be. That's in its basic form. And so the tie-in here, if I can start using the data from my SQL report, put it into a Google Sheet, and maybe stage it a little bit. So I want to take a certain amount of information and have it get deployed as a notification. Now I've got a system that I can actually use. And so if you want a little bit more information about Google Scripts, there's some more detail here. And there's other references like this in the Moodle course here at the iMoot. Another option that's really great once you have a script that's working well is something called a script trigger. And the great thing about a trigger is that you don't have to start running that script on your own. You can have that automated and go through a process at a particular point in time. So here's the script editor in Google, and gives you a look at the kind of notification script that we're using. By the way, I do have a template of the spreadsheet that has this script existing in it, so you're welcome to download that and borrow it and see if that's something you'd want to use in your own implementation. Okay, and so what's sitting in the script is two things. The first thing is that there's a function that actually creates that little custom menu that you might have seen in the other slide that says email notification. So I can manually choose that function to run whenever I want to. And here's that function that I'm calling. And here's where those variables are set. I want to set the recipient, what that subject's going to be, the kind of message I want to pull. And then a little status menu. So the email sent piece right here is another column in the spreadsheet that I'll show you that starts to tell me whether this mail app has been run for those particular rows. There's my mail app option. And then what happens in the script is once that email is sent out, it sets a value in the spreadsheet to say, this has been done. And that helps us prevent from sending that message out again more than once if we don't want that. So the end result is a nice message. And of course, you might want to spend a good amount of time crafting this message to be really helpful for faculty. Probably just as much time as you are spending building a SQL report or these queries or these scripts, because the hope is that it's a very supportive language that will encourage students or faculty to take action on whatever that issue might end up being. And again, here's that script trigger that I mentioned. What you can build here is a custom trigger that's time-driven. And I could say I just want to run it every day between 9 and 10 a.m. So that's quite handy if you have something that's really working well for you. And there's more information about that trigger here. Just stop here for a moment. Is there any questions that you might have before I move on? Okay, great, thanks. Again, feel free to jump in. I'll try to be watching the chat window. Dijon, you're going to be probably familiar with a lot of this, I'm guessing, but these are some of the functions that I use to kind of stage the data that we get out of our SQL reports to get it ready for those notifications that we do. These are just things that I've kind of tinkered around with over time and gotten to find that these are very useful and common functions that I use to manipulate the data that's going on. And I'll try to demonstrate the spreadsheet now. See if I can jump out of the presentation for a moment. Okay. Good. It looks like you can see this okay. Maybe make the screen a little bit bigger. Okay, so the basic part I have here is kind of just pulling in the data from my SQL report. The first 3 columns actually does some calculations for me to kind of get a status of what's going on. And the design here is that I start pasting in information right here at this cell, starting at the D4 here. And I've tried to notate this too in the template that's available for download to hopefully guide people as to what to do with the spreadsheet. Hopefully it's helpful. And so we have this report data, and then another tab actually just pulls the latest information from, if I run this query multiple times, I want to know based on the most recent date what's happening right now as far as the status of that query. And then I'll show you the notifications staging. This is the key part to interact with the script. Okay, so I'm going to show you, I've got some sample data here I'm going to just pull in as a starting point to show you what this spreadsheet looks like when I get real data in it. And so now I've got, this is what was run from my configurable reports, and it gives me all of that information here. Whether the course is visible, the start date of the Moodle course, the name of the course, how many students, the instructor email, and then the timestamp of the when I ran the report itself. And that's an important piece to manage all of this. And now you can see I got a run of totals of how many different courses are affected by this issue, how many instructors. I just made it be myself for now, so there's only one. And the number of students affected. So I think it's a good metric to be watching out for if you want to be reporting all of this. So the latest summary shows me, just really looks at that report data and presents it in a different place. And then it will only pull the most recent one. Okay, so now I've got in my notification sheet, you can see because of that data coming in, I've got one unique faculty member that needs to know about some issues with their course or courses. It gives me a subject line here, and I'm already using some references here. If the first cell over here is blank, then it's not going to show me anything. So you can see some of these have formulas in there, but there's nothing happening. And now it knows to put that subject line in. The message graph is something you could put in this cell here, but it gets pretty unwieldy, and I found you can actually put it in the script itself too. Here's where that column is going to be to mark that the email has been sent. And here is, I've also included a copy address in case I want to CC some of our support staff about this particular issue. And then it grabs this formula here, grabs all the courses associated with this particular faculty member that have an issue with visibility. Okay, so this is, again, that really big staging point for sending out that email. One thing I want to point out for the recipient, so I use the unique value, so that way I only have one email going to each faculty member and not 7 different messages to the same faculty member about each different course. I've been able to collapse it here into one particular situation here. Okay. So let's go ahead and jump back to the presentation. Actually, what I'll do is I'll go ahead and run the script. That's what I did want to do. So here's that custom script that's presented to me because of the script built here. And I'm going to go ahead and email that. When you first run the script, you're going to probably get a notification to ask that Google wants to accept some authorization to do that. And so the script does do some management with the spreadsheet and sends email as you. So you need to authorize that before you can proceed. And now you can see it, the script did run, populated this column with email sent. Hopefully you can see that in the screen sharing. And so it pushed off that message, and now they have it. So it works pretty well. All right. So it's that simple. And if you wanted to stage it up and maybe you had 20 faculty, 50 faculty, 100 faculty with this issue, you've done all that work in the same amount of time. And that's really the big value for us. Any thoughts on that? Feel free to chime in. I'll keep going. Thanks. It's really helpful. It took some time to build, but this is the kind of support that I see us doing ongoing. And so if we figure out those problem spots at particular times of the year, that's going to be a big advantage. And here's the feedback I've gotten from faculty. It's really been overwhelmingly positive. We just ran this for our summer session that started earlier, about a week ago, 2 weeks ago. And that went out to about, a reminder, about 60 people. And a third of them sent an email back, actually just saying thank you. It was a great reminder. And they took care of things pretty promptly in the first 1 or 2 days. And things were up and running. So I felt that's a positive impact on the student experience to have the course available before the start of the course is really underway. So that felt good. That it didn't feel condescending to the faculty, that they were really felt like they were being helped by the work of running these reports. So how many courses did it improve? I can show you how that works. We have, I may not have my data of our particular course set up for this last run, but I can show you where some of those metrics can be found out for your own implementation. And so here's, I think, going to your question, how is this really going to be helpful? How effective is this? And I guess one of the tricky questions with this particular scenario is how many of those courses would have been made visible by the faculty on their own accord? And I don't necessarily have that metric to compare it to. But I would think in any case, it's only helpful. It's not going to be cause any problems. So let me show you that results dashboard that's also built into the spreadsheet. So again, so here's, so when I first ran this report, I've only have one instance of the report started on this date. So I have a certain number of courses that I know need to be addressed. And so when I look at that dashboard, I can get that kind of summary tally, the number of courses, how many instructors need to act on that, and how many students are affected based on that report. And so that's kind of my metric to start with. I have some more data I'm going to throw in. So pretend a week has passed or a day has passed, and I want to run the same query again. So here's some new data I'm going to copy into the report data. And I just add it to the next open row right here, starting on column F. So that's how I manage this data. Oops. Let me get it to the right spot. There we go. I want to make sure we have that data looking right. Okay, so now I have a smaller set of courses that are affected because others have been addressed now. And now I can look at my new dashboard. And so here are the results since the last time I ran it and the second time. I can see that a number of courses have been resolved. Out of 47, 34 have been made visible. And again, this is sample data. And out of the 762 students enrolled in the course that couldn't see their course, 72% of them now can. And so we're making progress. And that's something that we can be running another report, adding that into this Google spreadsheet to get a good metric of how well we're doing. Does that help answer your question, Diljot, how we can manage this? Great. And of course, everyone's results are going to vary depending on how you implement this and all of that. But one of the things that's really helpful for us is that, again, to reiterate, we have a really good relationship with our faculty as IT support staff. And so getting a message from us, which is what's happening here, it looks like it's coming from me. I think they will tend to read that message because of that relationship. And I think usually what we try to be is generally very helpful. And when they see a message, they'll probably take note of it. If it's an automated message coming from just a system, I don't know, quite as effective. It probably would be still fine, but we don't like the idea of being personable with our faculty. Okay, so the next thing here is really thinking about what are the problems that our faculty encounter. So we have to ask this question: what's going on in their courses that could be a little easier? And if it's something that kind of recurs over and over again at times, and they don't know what to do, we may not even hear about it. But it's something that perhaps there's just that one minor tweak, that 1 0 or 1 in the Moodle data that makes lives easier for everyone. And so we're trying to think about what those situations might be that are pretty easy, low-hanging fruit to start with. Same thing for students. So if you don't mind, I'm going to go and just highlight a few examples of the kind of reports that we've run to help things go a little more smoothly for students. And one is this. I don't know if you know about this, but forums and groups can sometimes have a mismatch with how course group settings are done. And so what happens is, I'll try to explain clearly, forums could be set to use groups, but there may not be any groups created in the course, or there may not be any students populated in those groups. And so when a faculty member might design a forum activity to have people separated into groups to activate, to be engaged there, they may not be able to reply to the initial question because they aren't in a proper group yet. So that's a behind the scenes thing in Moodle settings that faculty may not realize is going on. And so we want to, where there's a disconnect between the forum activity and what the course setting as far as groups are concerned. And so the choice is they can either add people to a group, or they can turn off the group mode for the forum. Either way, that should resolve the issue, and students will be able to participate fully in that activity. So here's some of the SQL, and tell me if, again, this is, I might glaze over with some of this, but this is an example of some of the things that we look for, that we had to go hunt for in the database. So we look for every situation where there's a forum that happens to be using group mode. And actually right here is the course that forums might exist and whether the course is using groups or not. And then here's the course module. The CM represents course module. So that's a forum that we're looking at and whether that group mode is being used or not. And then we filter out the type of course modules that we want. And number 9 is the actual forum module type. So there, so there's a SQL, and now here's the report we get as a result. And these blue links are active links from the report that if we wanted to go in and make that modification ourselves, I guess we could pretty easily. We can also look at the particular forum that's going to be a problem for those students if we don't act on And at that point, we can do the same process with our Google spreadsheet, bring that data in, send out a notification with a proper message related to that particular problem, and running again. Here's another one. This is related to the gradebook a bit and calculations, but if rubrics are used, there is a documented issue, I think, an issue where if a criterion in a rubric doesn't have a 0 value, it doesn't calculate the way people would expect. And so I'll kind of explain that here. Here we have a rubric in a Moodle assignment. And if you look at, we have 6 points for 3 different criterion. So in my mind, looking at this, and I think in most instructors' minds, this rubric is going to have a total of 18 points. And if I grade it this way, 6, 4, and 6, that tells me that's 16 points out of 18, right? That's the expectation. But the reality is, as documented, the grades are normalized, meaning that there's the difference between the highest and lowest point score that's possible in the defined rubric is what we're going to actually use for the calculation. So in this case, for the second one, it actually is 2 out of 4 points, not 4 out of 6. So that's a lower score. They're actually going to get 15 out of 18. Okay, so that's just a misalignment in how Moodle is designed in the back end. Instructors won't necessarily know that, and rarely do any of my instructors go into the docs of Moodle to research how a rubric is being calculated. They just go by what's in the interface for them. So what's the solution? We want to find any rubrics that exist that are missing that 0 value criterion, and then it will start. Here's the long description of what's going on. It's documented over on the Moodle docs as well. And so in the SQL, we look for that 0 value that's missing, and whether the assignment is using the rubric, which is another option. You can have a rubric tied to an assignment, but you actually maybe not even using it. You maybe just setting it to simple grading, and so we're not going to be concerned about it if it's doing that. The other criteria I look at for this report is showing the only assignments that are visible to students. If it's a hidden assignment, it could be that it's not even being used, so I'm not going to bring up an alert to a faculty member for something that may not even be used. Yeah, the 0 value thing just keeps cropping up every once in a while. And because there's no warning about it when teachers are using it, that's to me the biggest issue, is that it's not transparent to the people who are using the interface. So there's the SQL. I won't bore you with all that. And here's the report. And what I did use is I created a link I use concatenate. I don't know if you use that a lot, Dejat, for some of your work in Google Sheets. But you can do concatenates within the SQL statements as well to help create those web links at the end of the report. So that way I can get right to the grading rubric that's at fault and jump into Moodle and make that fix really quickly if I wanted to. And the nice thing about this one, I feel pretty confident going ahead and doing that on my own, because the resulting change really does align more with what faculty expect, and it actually only benefits the student grades if they were negatively affected with that particular situation. It's only going to improve their grade, which I feel most people are going to be happy about. Okay, one last one. Here's a human nature issue. It's not really a Moodle problem, but I bet there could be some designing in the Moodle development community to maybe even try to address this a little more proactively. Imagine someone teaching a course wants to add some extra credit. They create a grade item or an assignment called extra credit, or has the words extra credit in there, but they forget to actually mark it as being treated as extra credit in the calculations of the gradebook. Well, what happens then is that you've got students earning 3 out of 5 points for an extra credit item, but it's actually getting counted as part of their total grade. So they've earned 60% on a 4-credit item, which isn't all that great. So, it actually might reduce their overall score if it's not marked correctly as extra credit to begin with. So we just want to really do some work to try to get the integrity of the gradebook solidified. So when the numbers come out, both for students and for faculty looking at it, they can use that reliably. Here's the sequels. We want to try to look for those strings of extra credit in the name of these assignments. Or EC, someone else recommended maybe going and using that too, because that is a common convention, and I would agree with that. So look for it not to be called as extra credit. And then again, if that item is visible to students, then I'm going to start to flag it. Okay. So there's that report. And here's just an interesting sample. You can see these are all some of the results. And here they are. They're called extra credit very obviously to me, but they're not marked as extra credit in the course. And so that really should get addressed. This is worth sending out an alert to the faculty. All right, any thoughts on that? Thanks. A lot of this just comes from a number of years of experience, seeing what tends to come around the pipe on a regular basis, or at least every so often. And these are just ways to try to think a little smarter about, where should we be spending our time with supporting our faculty. These are pretty, again, low-hanging fruit if you discover that these are issues that are very simple to remedy. And I'd rather have them focusing on designing really deep activities in Moodle that are really meaningful for students. All this stuff here is really busy work that should just work. So the next phase in our implementation of this, hopefully, is to start adding additional value to these workflows. I've thought about having some at-a-glance health check for the gradebook in each course, or even just an overall general course health check to see if there's all these issues that might be flagged up, and then we can send a kind of a comprehensive summary to our faculty about how their courses are looking at this point. It would be a nice option for some quality assurance, kind of at the ground level, kind of grassroots level, to just kind of see if there's other things that we want to be making better in our courses. There might even be some scenarios where that automated alert not only alerts the faculty and our support staff, but actually does the fix for us, which you could do. So it can handle database updates as well. But I try to be really conservative about that because you can get yourself into trouble changing data on a database really quickly. So you want to be really certain that it's doing exactly and only what it should be doing when it comes to doing that automatically. So again, of course, health check sounds like a good thing for me. We could do the same thing with a gradebook health check. I've started to build this out a little bit, so I'd love to hear your comments on it. So this is an example of having a gradebook if it's visible or hidden to students. So that is an option that faculty can do. I think we like to have it available for students, so we see if it's there or not. Whether items have been added to the gradebook or not shows us if the faculty are using graded activities in the course. Whether scales are used for those grade items is not necessarily a bad thing, but it's good to just know if they're being used or not, because they can be used for various reasons, not just for calculations. And then here's those extra credit items that might need to be fixed. So I summed the number of times that happened in a particular course, so we have a sense of whether that needs some attention or not. So here's, again, a mock-up of what I could see happening for a particular course health check, basically building the number of different types of messages that we might want on separate alerts that we have right now into one master email that gets sent out at the beginning, or maybe at a certain time before the start of the course, to give a sense of what else needs to happen. Dilshad, again, thanks for hanging with me. I appreciate the time with me. I know we're kind of wrapping up the session now, but would be happy to hear any other ideas that you might have in your experience supporting teachers or being a teacher yourself that could be a little easier if we just figured out what those issues were. Yeah, I'm hoping that the tinkering with these will save you some time. It does take a little work to kind of get the sense for what the system is. It's not designed, Google Sheets isn't necessarily designed for this up front, but it is something that anyone has access to, which I like. So you don't have to be an administrator to be doing those kinds of things. So there's more power to multiple people to trying this out on their own, maybe to help their own departments, or other communities in their institution. Yeah, informing the staff early can improve the support. Yeah, if there's other people who can be assisting in the needs, maybe instructional designers or other people on the ground helping with course facilitation. Yeah, if they can be, if there's more hands involved in creating that course delivery. Yeah, you could certainly copy those people on so they're all on board, and getting knowledge is half the battle here, and getting that communicated to the right people. So just to summarize, the configurable reports, I think, is going to empower us as support staff and others to hopefully address those issues ahead of time before they're run into by students or faculty. That's the main goal here. Hopefully no one has to see these things again from a student experience standpoint. Being proactive is really a better experience for everyone involved. And then if you don't know it, you have to spend time in that Moodle table list to really get to know where things live. And that's an ongoing process for me as well. There's some tables I haven't even gone into that perhaps will have some more options that will pop up and arise for some other reports moving forward. And then the Google tool is what I'm using right now. I think there could be some other notification implementations at a more institutional level if we saw value in this. But the good thing is that it works now too. Well, thanks for sticking with me. Again, if you have other questions, feel free to send me an email or connect with me on Twitter. And there are certainly the discussion board in the iMoot course, and there's plenty of resources and links from this presentation in this course site as well. Feel free to grab any of that stuff there.
Okay, it's Stefan again from the iMoot team. Thank you. That was most enlightening. And as a non-techie guy, the technology behind it, or well, the SQL stuff was way above my head. But just having, the experience of seeing what you guys there have been doing is great. I'm sure it really does increase the level of teaching with Moodle no end, because people get these automated reports saying which things still need to be fixed. So that's been really enlightening. Thanks a lot, Eric. Enjoy the rest of iMoot, and I'll stop the recording now.